Hello, everyone. Yes, you are welcome to today's live session. Yeah, we all saw what happened today at the election at the Supreme Court. We saw the judgment that was handed over to the Nigerian people. Like we've always said, that the appeal court, the Supreme Court's judgment cannot, be argued anymore. You cannot appeal it. You can't even say anything, as in whatever they come up with, you just have to accept it. That is just it. And today, Nigerians were surprised. Nigerians were shocked with the kind of ruling that we got. Because, even before now, many people were predicting that that is what we are going to see. Many people were saying it, that it's possible that they were going to uphold what the election tribunal initially ruled. And that was exactly what happened today. And Nigerians have got to live with this for the next 3+ years. We are just like, personally, I'm just like trying to imagine, trying to cope with how we are going to, go through this for the next 3 years plus, honestly, because it's not really going to be that easy. Looking at how the Chicago State University came up to say, oh, we didn't give you this certificate and all that. So the court, the Supreme Court, finally said that Atiku got this information late, that they did not present it during the when they presented their evidence at the tribunal, and because of that, they can't admit it, or they can't even work on it, because there've been speculation that who knows if the Supreme Court was going to even admit this evidence. People were saying it. Some people said they won't admit any new evidence. But like Dr. Te has always told us, that the Supreme Court, the law mandates the Supreme Court to admit new evidences. But like today, we saw them saying that they will not and they cannot. And moreover, there were so many reasons they gave, that even during the deposition, INEC was supposed to be present, the APC or somebody from the team of the president was supposed to be present, but none of them were present. So Atiku just went ahead to get this deposition, and he expects them to just admit it, that they won't. But one funny thing is that they admitted that this evidence has substance in it. So I'm just going to allow you listen to the way net media try to summarize it, because honestly, people are not happy with this kind of ruling. Nigerians are not happy that despite this kind of problem that is attached to all this, as in the certificate forgery of a thing, which is one of the things Nigerians are saying that they want to distance themselves from it. They are not certificate forgers, and they expected the Supreme Court to use this opportunity to tell the whole wide world that Nigerians are not certificate forgers. But they ended up telling us that this evidence brought by Atiku was not going to be admitted. No, they admitted it, but they weren't going to use it in their judgment. They weren't going to rule on it. So you can just imagine, the way they frustrated the efforts that Atiku put in this. But like I've said initially, you can't even argue whatever they said during this ruling. You cannot. And let me just allow you listen to this, and then we are going to take Kenneth Okonkwo's reaction, after which we have other videos that we want to listen to opinions of people, what people are saying. Because for us, the obedient members, the obedient family, we are really disappointed. We are really disappointed. You can even see this Aisha Yusuf. She was saying that he's not my president, because we expected the judiciary, the Supreme Court, to do justice to this case. Nothing outside justice. Don't allow pressure. Don't allow yourself to be intimidated. Don't allow yourself to be used, because this case is very, very sensitive. Even as it stands now, Nigerians are still coping on how to deal with this final judgment. So let me just allow you listen to what Ned Media said about this, and then we'll
The
come back
Supreme
to.
Court judgment on the appeal of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal judgment is in. First of all, when a justice begins reading a judgment with a statement, quote, "I am the one that wrote this judgment," unquote. Why did he need to tell us who wrote the judgment? It says a lot. Another thing that wasn't surprising is the acceptance from the lead justice that the deposition from Chicago State University registrar has substance. What does substance mean? It means something that is significant and valid, something of great importance. But like the appeal court, they failed to use an evidence that they accepted that it is significant to determine the forgery of Tinubu's certificate. Again, one justice in his judgment continued hammering on why Atiku failed to obtain a letter from Chicago State University that will expressly disown the certificate Tinubu submitted to INEC. It's common sense that letters can be forged with all the insignia, signature, letterhead, stamp, everything. It was proven by the oral deposition that the records Tinubu submitted to the appeal court during the hearing didn't come from the university. Oral depositions under oath will always be better than written documents. That's why the US court uses that to obtain information, obtain testimony from respondents in courts. One justice even questioned the authenticity of the oral deposition because the seal of the court is not on the document. The lead justice also wondered why Atiku failed to obtain this evidence on time before the hearing at the appeal court. There's no doubt that this is a reasonable position. When Tinubu's records first became public last year, Atiku should have filed for a discovery in the US on time. Anyway, who knows what they would have come up with if he got the evidence on time. There's no way to beat these people. Yes, even if Atiku fulfilled all the conditions by front-loading all the evidence in his petition, they would have still found another technicality to uphold the forgery. The major issue raised in this appeal by the petitioners to the Supreme Court for resolution include substantial non-compliance of the law by INEC. Is it a must for a candidate to score 25% of the votes in Abuja before being declared winner? Articles, new evidence from Chicago State University that proves Tinubu forged the certificate, and many issues.
Yes, so guys, you've heard it for yourself that the judges, they acknowledge the fact that there is a very big substance in this evidence that Atiku brought, but they weren't able to consider it as a real evidence. They said Atiku would have brought a letter from the CSU to tell the whole world that yes, that the president forged his certificate. I wonder the kind of letter that they were expecting after the deposition that was, done under oath. I'm just like wondering what kind of letter do they expect Atiku to have brought alongside with the deposition. So you can see these are just like technicalities. These people, they don't really address these issues the way it's supposed to be so as to deter others for the future. Because from the way things are looking now, it appears one can just forge. And then if you have your way to the Supreme Court judges or even any of the judges at any of the court levels, you can find your way through. So many Nigerians are now saying, oh, does it mean that forgery is now legalized? How come they did not see this as an additional evidence that Atiku has initially said in his during the tribunal that the certificate that was submitted wasn't the real one. But they didn't really get their facts together. And that was what led him to go and bring this additional fact. Anyway, that was their decision. Another thing that is really bothering so many people is the fact that they didn't rule on the forfeiture. The forfeiture that was as a result of the drug and whatever, in the United States. The judges did not talk about that. And that is one of the big points or one of the big prayers that Peter Obi has in his petition. But it was really shocking that they did not even go to that. They didn't touch it. So does it mean that they just purposely ignored it? Because we were looking at this forgery and the forfeiture, assuming they say that you cannot prove overvoting and electoral malpractices and all that, because that is what they are trying to say, that you can't prove it in Nigeria. So we were looking at this for future. We're also looking at this forgery of a thing to hear what the Supreme Court was going to say. But they did not talk about the for future aspect. On the aspect of forgery, they said Atiku brought it very late and that he didn't get any letter from the CSU, and also the other parties weren't present during the deposition. So let me allow you listen to what Kenneth Okonkwo said about this ruling.
As a fine imposed on the second respondent, and we presented the issue of forfeiture as a fine imposed on the second respondent for the proceeds of narcotics and money laundering by the District Court of Illinois. I sat down through, I did not hear it, and I wonder whether that was swept under the carpet or was an oversight, because the lead judgment was detailed on all other issues, and they said all the issues there have been overtaken by event in all our own issues, and I did not hear the issue of the forfeiture. And so that's why I said I disagree respectfully, even though the decision is binding.
The 2% issue has also been laid to rest.
Yes, it has been laid to rest. The Supreme Court has the authority to interpret the Constitution. It is their prerogative as the arm of government imbued with the power to interpret. That is the interpretation they have given to it, and it is binding on us all. That's what I'm going to say on it.
What's your take on the reasoning on IReV? How does it going to affect our future elections?
That is very interesting, because the only paragraph the Supreme Court brought to the notice of the world, which was quite interesting, is that even the Supreme Court agreed that non-uploading of the result on IReV reduced the confidence of the people in the election. I heard it clearly. Meaning that even the Supreme Court agrees that the election was not credible, or as credible as it ought to have been if the result was uploaded. So credibility is one of the three arms of an election for the people. Free, fair, and credible. Credible means believable. Why shut out the people for the rights the law has given unto them? So I was very glad that the Supreme Court pointed it out, that non-uploading of the result reduced the confidence of Nigerians in it, meaning that it cannot be presumed to be credible because Nigerians were shut out in it. So I loved that particular part. Thank you.
Yes, so guys, you heard it very well. They acknowledged that what INEC did during the election was wrong. But I wonder why they did not rule that on that basis, this election should be cancelled and be reconducted. I think if really they came up to say that INEC didn't play its role very well, is that not enough for them to have, cancelled this election? I think it wouldn't have taken them much to say, okay, on that ground, assuming they don't want to touch that of forgery, or they don't want to touch that of the forfeiture, like you heard it from Kenneth Okonkwo. He said it was never mentioned. It was never mentioned. You can imagine putting like 3 prayers before the court and say, please look into these matters. And the court only looked on 2 of those 3 points of 3 prayers and just ignored one. One might want to question, why would they just ignore that of the forfeiture? That somebody has had this bad past, this criminal past in the United States, and we brought it to you that on the basis of this, he's not qualified to be the president of Nigeria. And you never bothered to say, okay, I think that makes sense, or that does not make sense. They didn't even touch it, not to talk of using technicalities, to knock it off. And they mentioned the fact that INEC did a bad job for them not to have uploaded to the IReV as promised. But why didn't they, on that basis, say, okay, this election should be reconducted? Because none of the presidential election result was uploaded real time as promised by the INEC chairman. That alone can be used to disqualify this, to cancel this election so that a fresh election be reconducted. And also, it will serve as a serious warning to INEC, because as it stands now, nobody has really a kind of warned INEC not to try what they tried during this 2023 presidential election. INEC is now working freely and boldly because our court, our judiciary, did not a kind of make them understand the weight of what they did during the election. We know how much we spent. Look at Nigeria now. We don't have money. I heard that paying salaries now is like a tug of war. They want to borrow money. At the end of the day, they will use it for consumption, meaning we might end up not even seeing benefits of all this money they are planning to borrow. And INEC spent this amount of money in an election. They told us that they needed technology to make it work better. And then at the middle of the road, they dropped the technology. And nobody is even rebuking INEC. Nobody is bringing it to their notice that what they did was wrong. Anyway, let me allow you listen to what this analyst equally got to say.
Expressed a lot of faith in the gale of appointment he was making, despite the dependency of the matter at the Supreme Court. Wasn't too impressed when President Tinubu's reaction is to his team and his staffers that their jobs are secure. That's not the impression that should come after the judgment. Of course, the statement looked quite presidential and quite inspiring. But to think the impression that it gives to Nigerians when you say your jobs are secure is that government is a matter of profit. It's a matter of patronage. That is, people who work in government, who are political appointees, are there first for their own interest. And that's the expectation is that if their jobs are secure, they'll be whining and dining tonight, drinking champagne, that they are victorious. Whereas there is a lot of problems facing Nigerians at this time. If I would have expected a more somber mode in the presidency, because we had a very seriously and keenly contested election, and not only that, something that was close to a near bitter fight in pursuit of evidence to prove that he forged the documents that he presented to the Independent National Electoral Commission. Even though these are supposed to be insignificant issues, but considering the enormity of the problems and the weight of governance that he has, one should expect that the president and his team should have just taken this judgment as something which the president also alluded to as a call to serious national duty and not a time for unnecessary celebration.
Well, very well said, Mr. Tietie. But I'm wondering what impact this ruling will have on voter confidence when it seems INEC right now cannot be trusted to keep its rules, considering the fact that the Supreme Court said the failure to transmit election results electronically, as INEC promised, did not affect the outcome of the election.
Well, let me be honest with you. As commentators on the news and trends, we've been accused of sparing INEC too much, of not actually laying the blame where it ought to be, and that the issues we're focusing on the issues that either Atiku Abubakar or Peter Obi are bringing on the table. INEC actually holds a lot of blame in this whole thing. INEC has let Nigerians down several times. INEC, having had all the resources that it has always requested for to conduct elections, will constantly leave Nigerians in doubt and will not be able to, to raise the integrity bar of our elections. It's a big shame that INEC will allow this country to waste so much resources in terms of, in the judicial process and all other combined issues. Waste resources in such very needless and reckless manner just to defend an election that it could not conduct in a manner that will engender confidence. INEC has actually been a failure. The Supreme Court didn't really excuse INEC. It said, look, if INEC if INEC had said that the IReV was a factor, that it was going to upload the results on the IReV portal for Nigerians to follow, for Nigerians to track what was going on, and it failed to do so, no doubt, the Supreme Court said that no doubt that would affect the confidence of the Nigerians in the electoral process. But however, it couldn't have agreed because it was a statutory matter. The matter in terms of collation. Collation is statutory and not a matter of policy or a rule made by INEC. And that if the failure did not and could not have been the basis for overturning the election. Yes, so INEC holds a lot of blame. And in that case, there should be a lot of scrutiny on the next generation of leaders of the Independent National Electoral Commission. I think we've indeed spared INEC unnecessarily. I think when you raise the issue of voter confidence, INEC didn't even do so much in attempting to cure voter apathy in this election. Look at the figures, that less than 25% of Nigerians voting to elect a president. It shows that Nigerians are already not interested in the electoral process. Now, but a lot will depend on the outcome of the 4-year rule of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, whether he can engender that interest in Nigerians to make determinations. In fact, if we have seen a more robust political space where the election at local government levels, state and ultimately federal levels are more responsive to the needs of the people. I mean, I'm talking about governance. If governance has been more responsive to the need of the people, then we will see a greater number of participants in the coming elections. But we see government, and that is the problem, as a place where people go and get easy money, get easy appointment, get easy access to the national cake. And so the people believe that it is not about them. But when they realize, we see the number of policies that are being rolled out in the FCT that are now impacting people, and then people are now beginning to ask questions. If the other party were in power, would we have this kind of policies? When such questions are coming up, I believe that it will be natural for Nigerians to now take interest in the electoral process. But if it is INEC has been a disservice, undoubtedly a big disservice and a big, letdown to Nigerians when it comes to increasing voter confidence. No.
Yes, INEC must be faulted. The INEC chairman must be faulted. I don't know if you've even seen him lately, parading himself, trying to organize the elections, the upcoming governorship elections that will be holding soon in some states like Bayelsa, we have Imo State and other states like that. These people, they don't even feel sorry. If we were to be living in a sane environment, sane society, I think somebody like the INEC chairman was supposed to have come out to apologize to the Nigerian people, to try to make them build that trust again, which I think Nigerians don't even trust this body called INEC that is claimed to be independent. But from the look of things, we have seen that this body is not independent. They did all this. They went scot-free. Nobody's being prosecuted. Nobody's being called out. And they are still the one, reorganizing more elections that are coming up, whether at the state level or local government or whatever. INEC remains INEC. Why is it that they are just allowing these people to do whatever and they go away with it? Nobody is being prosecuted. You imagine, like I said, the money we wasted in this election, we would have used it, to invest in other aspects in our economy or even in our school system, in our education system. We would have used this money to achieve a lot, but they gave it to INEC. And today there is no result to show for it. And for Nigerians, most Nigerians, it doesn't matter. People are just allow him, he has been sworn in. How did he get there? Did INEC play its role? Can't they call out INEC because of the future? Because you still see these things repeat itself again, as in some of these actions, you still see them playing out again in the future if these people are not properly, as in warned, for the way they've handled this election. So let's still continue to hear what Mr. Tete, I think he made a very important fact somewhere in this video, which I really want us to.
People are already saying that this is a president that might likely put so much to, maintain the status quo, living after where, building after where former President Buhari left without much changes. But I challenge those persons who hold those views to the fact that President Tinubu must now hold himself as a progressive president, the person who as governor had wished for state police, who had wished for greater autonomy for local governments, who had wished that state governments have more money, have more control over constitutionally restricted issues, to now produce and provide services to the people that they govern. So we're expecting some sweeping changes in the electoral process. President Tinubu, again, you see, one of the reasons why I have always expected gerontocratic proponents who believe that the age is not a matter when it comes to leading a country like Nigeria, is that, okay, for persons who have advanced in age and are presidents, like President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they should be thinking more of legacies. So a man who is widely traveled, who has crisscrossed the country, made his fortunes and worked in the United States, became governor, and also fought so hard to become president, one would expect that he should challenge himself to leave a country, to build a country and leave it as a country that can compete with other countries of the West, other countries of the world that are prosperous and stable. So everything that is necessary, it should be done. And so definitely there is expected to be widespread reforms, especially in the electoral sector. Again, it is not only about economy or political stability. It is also not about immediate solutions that are pandering to that are populist in nature. It's also about building an enduring country that, even though in the midst of its problems, it can have a direction, it can have a defending its position in such a very meticulous manner. So if you read the judgment of the Court of Appeal, you will know that it will be difficult for the Supreme Court to overturn that. The Supreme Court will have to go out of its way. We've always, I've tried to, point out that when lawyers attest or refer to the inherent jurisdiction of the court, the idea is that the court has superordinary powers to do justice beyond the letters of the law. But with the understanding that whatever pronouncement the Supreme Court makes amounts to law, I think I will leave it at that and not contend further.
Well, Frank, you might not have any issues, with the ruling, but there's been a lot of reaction on social media, and quite a number of Nigerians do have issues with the ruling. I've seen reactions like justice died at the Supreme Court today. Some people believe the Supreme Court relied more on technicalities rather than substance of the evidence and so on. Clearly, we have some Nigerians who do not have faith in our judicial system, believing that they are corrupt, possibly, and biased. Now, how do we change this perception and strengthen the judiciary in Nigeria?
You're asking a very big question, and it's a very difficult question. Yes, I agree with you that the indices out there in the social media and also the perception in the mindset of many Nigerians is that the judiciary is corrupt. And again, I've also seen corruption perception indices that have been published by the National Bureau of Statistics with the help of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. I can tell you too that such empirical pieces of evidence also attest to the fact that the perception of the judiciary in Nigeria is corrupt. I also, as a practicing lawyer, I've seen a lot of corruption in the judiciary, though it is in the non-judge, I would say, beyond the judges' chambers. I've seen a lot of corruption, especially when it comes in the registry. I must tell you that. So I will be doing myself a disservice. I will be misusing this platform if I prevaricate, if I do not say the truth. And the truth is that the perception, and to a large extent, as a matter of reality, the Nigerian judiciary is corrupt. Now, your question is so difficult. You're asking me to prefer solutions to the widespread perception of a judiciary that is said to be corrupt by Nigerians, that is supposed to serve. That's a big. All I can say is that we must acknowledge that it is a problem, and then the judiciary, not only the judiciary, including the president, must now set out to do what we call restoration of judicial confidence. It is a big problem because even lawyers now approach courts with that kind of double-mindedness, no longer trusting that there will be a pronouncement on what is the law anymore. that kind of uncertainty is grave for the legal profession. And I'm talking about lawyers. Then this idea, and again, when you see that the National Judicial Council appears to be giving lightweight, punishment or discipline to judges that have been outrightly, caught collecting bribes. So, and then when litigants who have actually successfully offered bribes before go about telling Nigerians, telling opponents, or bragging about the fact that they own the court, they own the judiciary, they own the judge comes from their place, the judge is their classmate, or the judge is this, man, I can assure you that it is worse than perception. It is a matter, I lack the words to tell you that the problem of the fact that there is lack of judicial confidence right now, and that pronouncements of judges are tainted beyond law and facts, and that are actually influenced by various mundane and very sheepish influence and factors. It's a big problem. But I again believe that when we go back to those days, we mentioned, fellows, the days of Oputa JSC, Obaseki and the rest of them, we hope to have a judiciary that was fearless. Even though there was a military government, there was the General Abacha or Babangida and the rest, they didn't care. They declared the law the way it was. When we begin to have those kind of rulings and judgments again, perhaps the restoration of confidence in the judiciary will ensue. But right now, the problem is big. I didn't give them that impression. And again, somehow, the judiciary is not helping matters, because we're in a situation where its actions cannot be predicted. Take, for example, one politician will make a boast that, look, we will tell the Supreme Court not to hear that matter, and eventually the Supreme Court, which has set forth to hear a matter, will unnecessarily just postpone the matter, saying it's not hearing it anymore.
Yes. So, guys, you can see that there is really fire on the mountain. How are we even going to start purging our judiciary, having the current president as the #1 man in Nigeria? Because for me, I believe that the judiciary has so much fought for him. They've helped him. Will he have that boldness to start rebuilding our judiciary? What do you think? Because the perception is out there. Somebody even wrote today on Twitter, he said, the only advice he has for Nigerians is do not vote again, do not vote again, do not. He typed it as in so many times, telling Nigerians, never you go out to vote anymore, because even if you vote and something went wrong, if you go to the court, you are not even sure of getting justice. So you can imagine the kind of perception that we have out there. And like we've always said, that this was a golden opportunity for our judges to come out and shine. But we didn't see them do that at the tribunal level, and also we didn't see them do that again at this Supreme Court level. And one keeps wondering, can we still fix our judicial system? Can we still fix our judicial system with the people we have in leadership today? These are mostly people that worked with Buhari. This is still the APC kakuks, They are still the ones in government today. They are still the ones determining and deciding the direction Nigeria moves in. Do you think they will have that boldness to sanitize our judiciary? Look at what this analyst said. He said in those days, even though it was during the military rule, the judges, they had this boldness. They declared the law without fear or favor. They didn't even want to know if anybody was being pained by what they were saying. Can we still go back to days like this? Yes, we've seen what happened today at the Supreme Court. Nobody can appeal it. You just have to admit what they ruled, and we hope that tomorrow we'll still come out to a kind of retire these politicians, because we must keep fighting. No retreat, no surrender. So let me allow you listen to what the Labour Party has come out to say, their own reaction on this. Just listen to the chairman speak.
And our leader, presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi in particular, for vilification in order to suppress the party, suffocate our team, and our goal of a new Nigeria. The planned persecution, myself especially, and our leader, our presidential candidate, it is also pertinent to put on record that we have it on very good authority that the government have marked some Labour Party key leaders, myself especially, and our leader, our presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi in particular, for vilification in order to suppress the party, suffocate our team, and our goal of a new Nigeria. The planned persecution, intimidation, suppression, and harassment of our leaders using security agencies and all other government institutions will definitely be defended. We therefore call on all our members and the obedient family to be vigilant and brace up for the challenges ahead. The struggle for a new Nigeria will certainly be tortuous and hard. We are also calling on the international community to rise to the occasion to defend democracy in Nigeria. Your voices were loud and clear in condemnation of the outcome of the presidential election. As we approach the next stage of our democratic journey, we call on you to stand by the millions of Nigerians who are already pushed beyond their limits into unnecessary hardship, poverty, and penury.
So that is it. There was a section, I think it's not included in this clip, where he reacted directly to the ruling that was handed over to Nigeria by the Supreme Court, to Nigerians by the Supreme Court. So he acknowledged that it wasn't the expectation of Nigerians, that this president will be upheld as the winner of the 2023 presidential election. But like I've always said, once the Supreme Court rules, you can't appeal, you can't even argue it. If you argue it tomorrow, it will make no sense. But I think posterity, the future, our children will grow up to ask questions as regards to this judgment. They will look at the prayers that were brought forward by the petitioners and how these judges ruled. Like Net Media started by saying that the judge who read out this ruling said, I wrote it, as if anybody was arguing with him, or if anybody was like, trying to doubt on whether he was the one that wrote it or not. You can imagine sometimes the words of these people make a lot of sense. That could even a kind of make somebody to think about if they were the one that wrote the one that, the one that was handed over to Nigerians at the tribunal level. For you to start by saying that I am the one that wrote this judgment, honestly, for me, I think it raises a lot of dust. That is where we are in Nigeria. So we've got to battle with this for the next 3.5 years. And let's just put our hearts together and plan on how to fight for the forthcoming election. It won't take long anymore. 2027 is already by the corner. We are going to ensure that a new Nigeria is better. That is our dream. We want a Nigeria where our government officials will not even dare to approach these judges. You will have some level, no matter your position, you will allow them do their job without them being influenced. You allow all the bodies that are independent to be independent. Look at the EFCC. The EFCC chairman, the past EFCC chairman, has been released, and people were like, we were not even told why he was arrested. We were not told on what condition was he released. What was the negotiation? And he was released a night before this ruling. Somebody tweeted and was saying, was it a compensation for something? Can you imagine? So, and one thing with this party, the APC, is that they tell a lot of lies. And most things they do it in secrecy. This is just the opposite of Mr. Peter Obi. He told Nigerians that he will make sure he carries people along in whatever action he's taking. He makes sure he carries people along. If they borrow money, they will tell you they are borrowing it for this. You end up not seeing that money being channeled in that direction. you end up not seeing the effect of that money. You can see them saying that they want to probe the past administration for all the money they borrowed in the name of they wanted to work on the refineries that we have. This government is saying that they want to probe the Buhari's administration. These are the same people. These are the same people. So that is where we are, Nigerians. Let's not allow our spirits to be that dampened. I know it's not still easy to manage this situation, but I tell you, you must congratulate yourself that we fought hard. We did it. This is what it means to have opposition. You have to, create an environment where the opposition have to speak up and expose some of the rot in the system. And that is what the Labour Party / the obedient family and all well-meaning Nigerians who want to really see Nigeria work again, this is what we have done. Somebody commented on one of my videos today, said, Ifoma, how far? It kind of, yes, the Supreme Court has ruled. What is now your take? I know before now, some people were like, oh, very soon the Supreme Court will rule. What will be your content again? On what will you be making videos about? And then people think it's all about take a personal interest. These things, everybody is going to feel the impact of all this because the international community, countries of the world, are going to still see our president as somebody whose certificate has a question mark, even though the Supreme Court did not acknowledge that evidence. The world is, Nigerians are already suffering. We've seen Nigerians being rejected, as they go for admission in different countries. They apply, they are being rejected. You are at the airport, people are looking at you as if you are wearing the backside of your clothes and all that. Nigerians are already passing a lot because of this. And because they could not come out to counter it, they could not come out to prove that no, this certificate was not forged. So it's going to be there. It's like a label, a stigma now, which everybody is going to suffer. So you can imagine a situation where people don't have that confidence to invest in Nigeria because there is forgery keys around the sitting president. Don't forget that the FBI files are yet to come out. So you can imagine what is going to happen. The economy, how do we even expect to boost our economy in all this? I was thinking that the judges, the judiciary would have just taken its time to, save Nigeria from all this, but they've given their ruling and we can't appeal it. We can't even argue it. We just have to admit it. But we still know the truth. We know who won the election. We know that Abuja, somebody said Abuja is now a state. You can now forge, it's not a problem. And so many things have been going on the social media, but we all know who won this election. And we know that Abuja has its own special status. You must win Abuja to be declared the president of Nigeria. You must win Abuja. You must win that 25%. You must get it. But we've seen that the tribunal court ignored that. And now the Supreme Court is telling us that they are upholding what the tribunal gave to Nigerians as judgment, meaning that possibly it's now like a law that Abuja is no longer a state. It's no longer having its special status. It's now a state. Maybe in the future, let's see if we are going to be conducting governorship election and having senators, coming from there and other benefits that the states do enjoy. Let's see if that is going to play out in Abuja. And I'm just hoping that things will turn around for Nigeria. And don't forget, I told you that this court, the Supreme Court, didn't mention the case of the forfeiture that the sitting president forfeited in the USA as a result of drug trafficking. They didn't mention that during this ruling. And Kenneth Okonkwo reacted and was saying that, does it mean they threw it under the carpet? Why is it that they never even mentioned, even if they were to use technicalities to trash it out, why didn't they talk about it? It was not mentioned. But for the fact that Supreme Court remains the Supreme Court, whatever ruling they give remains final. You can't appeal it. But the judge that just died in Enugu State, he said some of this ruling will keep haunting them. That is just it. The Nigerians will keep discussing issues around this ruling until I can't even say. So let's just see how things work out. Obedience, congratulations, you fought a good fight. It's good to stand with the truth, no matter what it takes. I've seen some people from the Southwest who stood with Peter Obi because they understood that this is not all about tribe. It's all about the future of Nigeria. It's not all about tribe. It's not all about religion. It's all about the unborn children. It's not all about tribe. It's all about rebranding Nigeria so that Nigeria can compete with other countries of the world. And in case you don't know, South Africa has overtaken Nigeria as the number one economy in West Africa. So South Africa now has replaced Nigeria. You can see how gradually we are sliding. The exchange rate alone has brought Nigeria so low, and the free fall naira is falling like as if it's snow. Will I say snow? This ice rain that used to fall. It is just falling like that, falling every day. Nothing to cushion it, nothing to try to manage it better. And that is it. So South Africa has now overtaken Nigeria. And you tell me, who is going to come to invest in this kind of environment? Who is going to come to invest in this kind of environment? If the Supreme Court had ruled the way Nigerians expected, don't try to argue with me. I tell you, Naira would have picked up a little today. But I tell you, the thing is just falling, deepening by the day. That is where we are today. So we look forward to things getting better, and we look forward to getting a transformed judiciary. And for the judges who ruled, let your conscience judge you, and the God of heaven judge you. If you have judged in favor of Nigerians, if you have stood for Nigerians, if you've stood for our country, Nigeria, and for the people of Nigeria, if you've stood for us, let God bless you. But if you did otherwise, God also has a way of repaying people. For the Bible says that the wicked will not go unpunished. That is just my own. For if after all this, you decided to connive with the people, with the politicians to do their bidding, only God knows, nobody knows. I can't come here to say, yes, it is what you did. But the God who searches conscience, that knows the heart of every man, knows your heart. He knows if at any point you decided to betray Nigerians who allowed you in that position to uphold justice, to rule according to the Constitution of Nigeria. God knows. And if you've done that in favor of our politicians and not for the masses, it's only God who knows how to judge. I believe that God sees every man. The God who made Nebuchadnezzar, that dethroned him and made him to become an animal until he knew that there is a God in heaven. That same God is existing. So our politicians or our judges should not just be living as if there is no God, or there is no judgment, there's no reward, as in for evil. There's reward for good, and there's also reward when one does the bad side of anything. So that is just what I have to say. Let God be the judge and the overall judge. But as it stands now, Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been upheld as the president of Nigeria, and we cannot argue that anymore. Let's see how things play out. And for the obedient family, like I've said, kudos to you all. You fought a very good fight. You didn't waver. Their intimidation didn't bring you down. You stood with the truth. You stood with the truth. And even till the end, you stood with the truth. So I want to say a very big thank you for those of you that joined me tonight. Dr. Tell was not able to make it tonight because he had an appointment. He'll be here tomorrow. Thank you very much for your time. I do not take it for granted. Please do well to like this video so that YouTube can recommend it for more people to watch. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell for future updates. With this, I want to say a very big thank you. And if you don't mind, you can also buy us a super chat, a super sticker. The icon is always down there below the comment section. We appreciate your time, and God bless you. Good night.